1:01 a.m. in Samara, a city long regarded as the energy heart of Russia's military machine. The region's two largest oil refineries, Novokuibyshevsky Oil Refinery and Kuibyshevsky Oil Refinery, were suddenly rocked by powerful explosions. Towering flames erupted, turning the industrial skyline into a vast sea of fire, just days after the New Year celebrations had ended. While much of the world was fixated on images of Donald Trump and Volodymyr Zelensky shaking hands and discussing the possibility of a peace deal, the Kremlin was still pushing full throttle at its strategic oil facilities. The objective was clear: to keep fuel flowing to Russian military hardware as assaults on Ukraine intensified, an idea that would soon prove disastrously misguided. That energy supply operation was swiftly neutralized. Ukrainian unmanned aerial vehicles struck with precision, reducing Russia's oil infrastructure in Samara, valued at roughly $10 billion, to smoldering ruins in a matter of moments. And the $10 billion figure is no exaggeration. These were not ordinary refineries. They formed a critical fuel artery for the entire defense and security architecture of the Russian Federation, powering aircraft, tanks, and even naval fleets that project pressure across Europe. They also supplied energy to the capital and funneled billions in foreign currency directly into the Kremlin's war treasury. For Ukraine, disabling this so-called energy heart was more than a battlefield success. It was a strategic lever, one that allows Kyiv to approach the negotiating table not as a supplicant, but as an equal. At the center of the operation was the Sokil 300 2026 variant, a mother drone flying terrain-hugging profiles below 165 feet, is approximately equal to 50 meters, while maintaining a cruising speed of 75-95 miles per hour is approximately equal to 120-150 kilometers per hour. It did not rush straight toward the target. Instead, it patiently penetrated deep into Russian territory, probing for lethal gaps in the air defense network. With a maximum range of 2,050 miles, is approximately equal to 3,300 kilometers, endurance of up to 26 hours, and a payload capacity of 660 pounds is approximately equal to 300 kilograms, the Sokil 300 can operate as a fully independent strike platform. The key lies in its GPS-independent AI navigation system, which compares real-time terrain imagery with preloaded satellite maps, rendering it largely immune to Russian electronic warfare and jamming. A new composite airframe dramatically reduces radar cross-section, meaning systems such as S-400 or Pantsir-S1 often detect the target only when it is already too close for an effective response. In the strikes on Samara, the Sokil 300 executed a three-phase process: electronic reconnaissance to identify air defense, blind spots, suppression of protecting radars, and then the release of FPV drones and armor-piercing warheads aimed at refinery distillation towers, triggering cascading explosions inside the facility. The arithmetic of modern warfare becomes brutally cold. Around $100,000 for a single Sokil 300. A few $1,000s per FPV drone exchanged for the potential collapse of a refinery complex worth billions of dollars. At approximately 8:30 p.m. local time, from mobile launch platforms concealed deep within forests in Sumy and Chernihiv, the first UAVs silently lifted off. They flew in zigzags along rivers and valleys, exploiting darkness and the complacency of the holiday period. Over the next 90 minutes, the UAV's journey was no longer a simple flight. It became a cold demonstration of how physical laws and systemic gaps can be exploited. Flying low and terrain-hugging at an altitude of roughly 130 feet is approximately equal to 40 meters. It used the curvature of the Earth itself and natural terrain masking to evade Russia's expensive, long-range early warning radar systems. This was not a straight, pre-programmed route, but a winding, hazardous corridor, the product of 3 months of continuous, silent reconnaissance. U.S. satellite data provided only a static picture. The rest, most critically, was completed by Ukrainian reconnaissance UAVs. Platforms such as the Shark and upgraded PD-2 carried no explosives, but instead EO, IR sensors, and electronic intelligence suites. They flew along the border and conducted short-range penetrations, listening to every radar sweep from Russian air defense systems. Each radar emission, its position, frequency, and especially the terrain-masked blind zones, was recorded and transmitted back to the command center in real time, gradually drawing an invisible highway through the air defense network. To fine-tune this map just before hour, Ukraine added another tactical layer, decoy UAVs. Cheap drones like the SICK, even improvised UAVs made from lightweight materials such as cardboard or foam were launched into the defended zone. Their mission was not to survive, but to force Russian air defenses to reveal themselves. The moment surface-to-air missiles were fired, reconnaissance UAVs behind them immediately fixed the exact coordinates of the launchers, updating the flight corridor so the main strike UAVs could slip past the newly exposed firing points. By 2026, another decisive factor was introduced: AI combined with digital terrain maps and Tercom. Long-range UAVs were preloaded with data on previously identified gaps, allowing them to autonomously adjust their routes following valleys, riverbeds, or residential areas where defenders hesitate to fire due to the risk of collateral damage. This enabled UAVs to reach targets deep inside Russian territory without continuous communication, greatly reducing the risk of detection. The entire Samara operation on the night of the 2nd of January 2026 was not a reckless gamble, but the result of 4 weeks of meticulous planning that precisely identified the critical vulnerabilities of the oil refineries. Reconnaissance UAVs like the Shark or PD-2 acted as silent pathfinders, clearing the route in advance. Only after the corridor was sanitized did heavy strike UAVs or mothership platforms like the Sokil 300 launch, flying along that safe passage to deliver the killing blow. This approach was not chosen for show. It was an extremely pragmatic risk-reward calculation. Instead of launching dozens of long-range UAVs and watching them get shot down one by one, Ukraine chose to move a larger, stealthier platform close to the target for a decisive strike. The difference is like an archer firing volleys from miles away versus a hunter who quietly closes in and places the blade precisely at the vital point. Instead of carrying a warhead, it was equipped with a compact, custom-built electronic jamming device. Its sole mission was to generate 10 seconds of electronic chaos, just enough to blind the S-400's primary radar at the critical moment. Think of it as throwing sand in a goalkeeper's eyes right before a decisive penalty kick. 1:58 a.m. With only 12 miles, is approximately equal to 19 kilometers remaining to the refinery, Sokil 300 completed its task. It released all 10 drones and immediately turned away. That distance was not an estimate, it was precisely calculated, positioning the mother aircraft just outside the maximum effective intercept range of the Pantsir-S1 systems defending the target. Sokil 300 did not carry ordinary drones. It deployed a specialized combat package: FPV attack drones armed with shaped charge warheads, low-cost decoy drones designed to trigger air defenses and expose their positions, and ultra-small sensor drones tasked with pinpointing critical valves and storage tanks inside the refinery. The swarm tactic followed a simple logic. First, the mother aircraft approached at extremely low altitude, hugging pre-mapped radar gaps. It then released the subordinate drones and briefly acted as a relay node. Decoys rushed in first, forcing Pantsir units to open fire. At the same time, attack FPVs slipped through the gaps, guided by encrypted links or onboard AI. From above, Sokil 300 scanned the entire battle space, marking priority targets with digital coordinates. The swarm struck almost simultaneously, overwhelming air defenses through sheer numbers. The advantages were clear. FPVs that normally operate only within a few miles could now be controlled from thousands of kilometers away. The most valuable asset, the mother aircraft never had to enter the densest kill zone. And the fusion of high-altitude surveillance with near-target precision-enabled strikes on the refinery's most critical vulnerabilities. But the Russians do not protect a $10 billion asset with barbed wire fences or a distracted guard. What surrounds this facility is a full-fledged electronic fortress, built with a near-arrogant confidence that only oil money can buy. The outermost defensive ring is the S-400 Triumph system, equipped with Big Bird and Nebo-M radars capable of tracking strategic bombers and ballistic missiles from distances exceeding 250 miles. It's the kind of defense that's like buying a space telescope to hunt for aliens while completely ignoring the termites quietly eating away at your home's foundation. Behind that lies the electronic moat. Long-range electronic warfare systems, including complexes worth hundreds of millions of dollars, blasting crude radio frequency noise across a radius of more than 150 miles. The interference is so intense that it doesn't just disrupt GPS, it turns the entire electromagnetic environment into chaos, as if someone switched on hundreds of transmitters at once, across every channel. If anything still makes it through that electronic storm, the innermost layer takes over. Self-propelled Pantsir-S1 systems, each costing around $15 million, armed with 30mm cannons and short-range missiles designed to shred any target that gets too close. In the air, Mi-28 attack helicopters remain on constant alert. On the ground, special forces patrol regularly, with a confidence so complete it borders on boredom. This is the most expensive security system oil money can assemble. Inside a tightly air-conditioned command vehicle, a radar operator, let's call him Sergey, stares at a display showing a perfectly clean airspace. For months, nothing has breached this defensive shield. Sergey has been trained to believe that this is simply how things are. He's watched videos of Ukrainian UAVs being shot down at the front lines and merely scoffed, "Toys." Sergey doesn't know that at that very moment, a swarm of toys is on the way, and they're not coming to overpower the system, but to deceive the mind of a multi-billion-dollar network. At 1:59, the first decoy drones peel away from the formation. They don't fly low, they climb high, deliberately exposing themselves to radar. But these are no ordinary UAVs. Each carries a device that amplifies its radar cross-section. On the S-400 display, a tiny object suddenly appears with a radar signature as large as a Su-27 fighter jet. The system responds exactly as its $500 million price tag promises. The 92 N6E fire control radar boosts its power, focusing on the newly appeared threats. Computers begin prioritizing tracking, classification, and target lock. And that precise moment is the trigger. While the S-400 is fully absorbed by the decoys, the Sokil 300 mothership UAV on the edge of the battle space activates a wideband jamming pod. Instead of continuous jamming, the device emits interference only at the exact moment the radar sends out its scan pulses, a sophisticated form of spot jamming. On Sergey's screen, the interference doesn't appear as a black void. It manifests as false targets, ghost signals, conflicting data. The radar sees too much and therefore can be certain of nothing. At the same time, several other UAVs activate the new generation Pokrova system. GPS and GLONASS in the area become meaningless. Coordinates are falsified, bearings distorted. But this has no effect on the attack drones skimming treetops at altitudes below 30 meters, where the S-400's radar already struggles with severe ground clutter. They don't need GPS. They navigate using inertial guidance systems, relying on gyroscopes and solid-state accelerometers, tracking every minute change in speed and direction. You can jam satellites, but you can't lie to physics. Within those few seconds of carefully orchestrated electronic chaos, the real attack UAVs slip quietly through the newly created gaps. No alarms, no effective target lock, no timely response. The electronic chess match is over before the defenders even realize it has begun. Ukraine doesn't destroy the S-400 with direct fire. They checkmate it with intelligence, precise timing, and the understanding that in modern warfare, the price of a weapon matters less than how you force your enemy to use it at the wrong moment. In just a few seconds of intermittent jamming, a multi-billion-dollar air defense system is blinded long enough for history to happen. 2 a.m. The first FPV strike is initiated, but its target is not the ELU AVT-6 cracking unit, not yet. The drone dives toward a secondary pipe rack, an element that appears insignificant, yet was selected with surgical precision. A 4.5-pound shaped charge detonates. The copper liner collapses inward, inverts, and liquefies, forming a hypervelocity penetrator traveling at over 25,000 feet per second. This is not a conventional explosion. It is a cut, executed through pure physics. A plasma jet exceeding 5,000 degrees Fahrenheit drills cleanly through more than half an inch of steel, igniting the fuel inside the system. The strike is a success. And instantly, it creates a new problem. A dense column of black smoke, unburned hydrocarbons erupts upward, completely obscuring the optical field. Cameras on the reconnaissance UAVs are blinded. But that moment of chaos becomes the wake-up slap Russian air defenses need to react. The electronic landscape shifts in an instant. The Krasuka 4 system goes fully active, unleashing a brutal curtain of raw RF jamming powerful enough to disrupt civilian communications across a wide area. Two Mi-28 Havoc attack helicopters scramble into the air, ordered to hunt down any anomalous electromagnetic signals in the region. Soon after, the Russian Ministry of Defense announces it has shot down 92 UAVs nationwide, 8 of them over Samara. The reality on the ground is far more chaotic. Russian operators don't just jam GPS. They switch to GPS spoofing, broadcasting false satellite signals that trick Ukrainian UAVs into believing they are in the middle of the Pacific Ocean. It's a sophisticated electronic attack that would instantly disorient most commercial drones. But these are not commercial UAVs. Inside every custom long-range FPV drone is an independent IMU, fused with high-precision solid-state gyroscopes. They don't need satellites to know where they are. They measure every change in acceleration, direction, and velocity according to immutable physical laws. You can fool satellites, but you can't fool Newton. At that exact moment, shrapnel from a detonating Pantsir-S1 missile tears through the propeller of the third FPV drone. It loses lift and begins to fall damaged, but not destroyed. The operator stares at the FPV feed and makes a split-second decision, equal parts genius and madness. Instead of letting the UAV crash uselessly, he guides its burning fuselage straight into a pool of spilled fuel from the first explosion, turning the drone itself into an improvised incendiary device. The fire instantly follows the fuel trail deep into the core of the refinery. A self-amplifying wound. The chessboard, in essence, is already decided. As 10 FPV drones begin their terminal dive phase, the Sokil 300-2026 variant, the mothership, the command hub of the entire operation, banks hard and exits the area. Its mission is complete. 80 miles away, it executes its final order, plunging into a remote forest and self-destructing completely, ensuring no technology falls into enemy hands. But for its children, the real battle has only just begun. The Russian air defense system is not useless. It is simply too slow. The 10-second jamming window snaps shut. The S-400 radar regained its picture. 2 decoy UAVs were target locked. 2 57E-6 missiles tore through the night. 2 Ukrainian drones disintegrated. On the Russian command network, it was a moment of relief. The threat has been neutralized. They were wrong. 7 attack UAVs had already slipped deep inside the defensive ring. 12 Pantsir-S1 systems simultaneously switched to manual fire. In the panic, they erected a wall of steel made of dense, overlapping fire. It was like trying to hit a hummingbird with a fire hose. Inefficient, but if you spray long enough, eventually you'll hit something. A proximity fuse detonated near the third UAV, shredding it with tungsten fragments. The fourth was torn apart by anti-aircraft fire. The fifth lost control in the violent thermal updraft from the initial blaze. A Mi-28 helicopter finally pierced the smoke and destroyed the sixth UAV. The jamming drone, its mission complete, was shot down. The seventh was finished off by a Pantsir missile. 10 drones went in. 8 became burning wreckage scattered around Samara. Russia inflicted heavy losses on Ukraine. But the price it paid was far greater. Because 2 got through. Amid the hell of fire and metal, 2 FPV UAVs appeared like avenging ghosts. Their operators used the chaos itself and the sacrifice of their teammates as cover. The Pantsir systems, having emptied their magazines in panic, were entering a reload cycle. A lethal gap opened. 15 seconds. On the screens of the 2 remaining Ukrainian operators, the targets were clear. The ELU AVT-6, the cracking heart of the refinery, and the adjacent crude oil storage tank. No more decoys, no more tricks. Just 2 UAVs, 2 humans, and a $10 billion target. They didn't need to choose between reason and emotion. They had 2 final orders. 2, 3. The first UAV slammed straight into Ilu AVT-6. The shaped charge didn't explode, it performed surgery. A jet of molten copper punched through the steel casing, injecting plasma hotter than 5,000 degrees Fahrenheit into the maze of pipes and pressure vessels. The system didn't merely fail, it self-immolated from the inside. 1.3 seconds later, the second UAV struck the crude oil tank. The 20mm steel wall was pierced, but the real weapon was the tens of thousands of tons of oil inside. The fuel ignited instantly, ripping the tank apart like glass. A colossal fireball formed so large that NASA satellites could detect it from orbit. The strategic consequences were immediate and catastrophic. The destruction of Ilu AVT-6 and the uncontrolled fires crippled 50% of the Samara refinery's output, wiping out 17% of Russia's national refining capacity. Within weeks, an energy superpower was forced to import gasoline from Belarus, while domestic fuel prices surged by 54%. 2 UAVs, total estimated cost $10,000. Damage inflicted, billions of dollars. Even Wall Street's most notorious venture capital funds could only dream of a return on investment like that. The attack on Samara was not merely a tactical victory for Ukraine, it was a cold, uncompromising lesson in the true nature of modern warfare. What we see here is an unavoidable truth. Power today is no longer measured by size, price tag, or the sheer number of military assets, but by intelligence, adaptability, and the ability to exploit an opponent's weaknesses. Russia built multi-billion-dollar electronic fortresses centered around S-400 systems, Pantsir-S1 batteries, attack helicopters, and dense layers of electronic warfare. Yet, that very confidence became a fatal blind spot. They prepared to counter large, expensive, and noisy threats, not the smart, cheap, and precise strikes delivered by small UAVs. Ukraine did not try to destroy Russian air defenses through direct firepower. Instead, they distracted, jammed, and forced mistimed reactions, then drove the blade exactly where it hurt most, the energy and industrial heart of the war machine. The biggest takeaway is that the economics, technology, and mindset of warfare have changed. A system worth billions of dollars can be paralyzed in seconds if it is forced to operate the wrong way. Victory does not belong to the most expensive weapon, but to the weapon used at the right time, in the right place, against the right target. Ukraine turned war into a brutal efficiency equation. Tens of thousands of dollars exchanged for billions in damage, shaking not only military capability, but also the opponent's negotiating position. Moscow's response only reinforces this lesson. Instead of changing its thinking, it poured even more money into the very systems that had just failed, like building higher fences after the foundation has already been washed away. It reveals a harsh reality. When thinking does not change, failure will repeat itself, only at an ever higher cost. Finally, this video underscores the essence of asymmetric warfare. It is not about who has the bigger club, but about who knows exactly where to strike. Sometimes, to bring down a multi-billion-dollar fortress, you don't need a massive hammer. You only need a very smart, very cheap nail, placed in exactly the right spot. Goodbye.